Chapter 6. Sarah woke up with a strong need to pee. Sitting up in her bed, she almost got out of bed. An internal voice reminded her of the day before. She was supposed to act like a baby. Babies did not use the potty. They just wet their pants. Sarah relaxed, and soon enough she felt her diaper get warm from her pee. The warmth overtook her. This was gonna be another beautiful day. After she felt herself stop peeing, Sarah laid back down on her bed to wait for her mother to come in and get her up for the day. Everything felt wonderful. Sarah looked at the clock on her dresser. 7:05 it read. Her mother would not be in until at least 7:30. That was another 25 minutes away. Sarah shifted her weight. The wet diaper reacted to her every move. Sarah stared at the open box of diapers sitting on her dresser. It would be a simple matter to grab one and change herself. The problem was that if she did that, it would ruin the baby mode she was now enjoying. After all, she thought to herself, babies do not change themselves. So deep in thought about what to do was Sarah that she did not hear her mother enter the room. "Good morning, little one," Sandy spoke. Sarah almost shot out of her skin. "You scared me." "Sorry about that," her mother replied. "It's okay," Sarah said as she felt her heart race a few beats. "Well, let's get you changed and then breakfast," Sandy said plainly. Sarah laid down on the floor as Sandy grabbed another diaper. In a quick minute Sarah was changed and both of them were heading downstairs for breakfast. Soon Sarah was sitting in her high chair being spoon-fed a bowl of oatmeal. The whole while Sarah was being fed, she felt like she was in the best place on earth. This was the life she had always wanted and looked forward to in her dreams. She was looking forward to 3 months of heavenly bliss. Sandy was thinking also. Sandy was wondering how she was gonna keep this up for 3 months. Sure, things were just as Violet had said they were. Everything was just like taking care of a real baby, only bigger. Still, Sandy remembered taking care of a baby, and it was a lot of work and very tiring. Still, when she looked into her daughter's eyes, she knew that this was the best thing to do. Soon breakfast was over and the dishes put away. That was when the question of now what came to both of their minds. Sandy had ideas. But there were things to do. Things that required them to leave the house. She had errands to run, and the problem now was what to do with Sarah. Normally she would just leave her daughter at home and that would be that. But this was not a normal situation. Sandy finally decided to take her daughter with her. "Let's get you dressed for the day," Sandy spoke. "Where are we going?" Sarah asked with a hint of concern in her voice. "That does not matter. Babies don't care what happens to them, and neither should you," came the answer. Soon they were up in Sarah's room and Sand was picking out an outfit for Sarah to put on. In a matter of minutes both women were dressed in jeans and t-shirts and ready for the day. Once they got out to the car, Sandy buckled Sarah into her seat and handed her a pacifier. "I want you to suck on this whenever we are in the car so you do not get fussy. When we leave the car I will put it in my pocket in case you get fussy while we are out," Sandy informed her. Sarah gladly took the pacifier. She loved the details that her mother was putting into this. She had even sat on her bed while her mother had packed a backpack with diapers and stuff. Basically it was her diaper bag. After a moment Sandy started the car up and they were off on errands. With each stop Sarah sadly took the pacifier out and gladly put it back in once they returned to the car. Sandy dropped off clothes at the dry cleaners. Mailed a package to her mother. Then headed back to the super Walmart. Once there Sarah once again took out her pacifier and both walked into the store. Sandy grabbed a cart and the two of them started at one end of the store and worked their way to the other end. Into the cart went baby toys, baby food, and a couple of boxes of baby cereal. With each item that Sandy put in the cart Sarah got happier and happier. She was amazed at what her mother was going to do to make her dream come true. Sarah then watched as her mother went over to the diaper aisle and picked up 2 bags of cloth diapers and a few dozen pairs of extra large plastic pants. Sarah looked at her mother and wondered if she was losing her mind. Sarah liked wearing disposable diapers, not cloth. "Why are you picking up cloth diapers?" she asked. "Babies do not care what kind of diaper they wear," came the answer. Sarah looked a little worried until her mother reached into her pocket and flashed her pacifier at her. "Are we getting fussy?" Sandy asked. For a brief moment Sarah wanted to say yes, but something inside her did not want the world to know she was a baby. She just shook her head no. Sandy smiled and the two of them continued shopping. As they neared the halfway mark of the store, Sarah felt her tummy rumble. She had not thought of this. Thinking through what being a baby meant had not been high on her lists of things when she had said yes to her mother the day before. "Mom." "Yes, dear." "I need to go to the bathroom." "That is why you are wearing a diaper." "Mom, I need to poop." "Like I said, that's why you are wearing diapers." Sarah could not believe it. Her mother was making her poop her pants. Sarah just looked at her mother. Part of her wanted to scream with joy and part of her wanted to scream with horror. After all, she was a baby after all, and babies pooped in their diapers. It was while thinking about this that another cramp hit her. "Oh well," she thought and relaxed. Soon she felt herself pooping into her diaper. After she was done, she walked over to her mother and let her know what happened. Sandy led Sarah back to the restrooms and both were glad to see the family restroom was not busy. After locking the door, Sandy pulled out Sarah's pacifier to suck on while she changed her diaper. This was the big test, Sandy thought. Now she knew that the next 3 months were gonna be necessary. After all, Sarah was 13, not 2, and needed to be broken of this desire to be a baby. Soon a diaper was changed and both of them were back shopping. Chapter 7. Sarah sat in her seat as her mother drove back from Walmart, sucking on her pacifier and watching the cars go by. She looked over at all the bags that had been bought at the store and smiled to herself. Soon they were home and Sarah was escorted to her playpen. After unloading the car, Sandy brought a few of the toys she had bought and placed them in the playpen for Sarah to play with. "That should keep you busy for a while." Sarah just stared at her mother. After a moment she began to play with her toys. Sarah must have played for half an hour before she got bored. Knowing that she could not leave the playpen, she simply laid down and fell asleep. Meanwhile, Sandy busied herself with housework. It had been an eventful day so far. Sandy finished her housework and made herself a cup of tea. Sitting at the kitchen table, she began to wonder if the plan would work. So far, Sarah had shown no signs that she wasn't enjoying herself. Sandy began to think she had made the wrong choice. After finishing her tea, Sandy wandered into the living room and the playpen. What she saw reaffirmed her resolve. There in the playpen was her 13-year-old daughter sleeping. She appeared to have been having the time of her life. Sandy just looked at her and wondered one thing. When would she tire of playing baby? An hour later, Sarah woke up needing to pee. Remembering here she was, she simply relaxed and peed into her diaper. She then sat up and looked around. The living room looked the same as always. Her mother was nowhere to be found. So Sarah sat up and began to play with her toys again. The sad part being she was intellectually too smart for them and soon grew bored. So she just sat in her playpen, sucking on her pacifier and waited for her mother to come get her. A few minutes later, Sandy walked into the room. Sarah looked at her and smiled. "How is my little girl doing?" Sandy asked. "Okay," Sarah answered. "Ready for lunch?" "Yes, please." Sandy helped her daughter out of her playpen and both of them headed for the kitchen. Soon Sarah was back in her high chair, with a bib on, waiting to be fed lunch. Sandy went over to the cabinets to get a couple jars of baby food. She settled on a jar of meat, vegetables, and turkey and a jar of strained peas. Sitting down in front of her daughter, she began to feed her. Sarah took each bite and relished the feeling. Baby food tasted different. It was not as wonderful as she had hoped it would be. But it did not taste that bad. Then came the peas. Sarah thought for sure she was gonna throw up, but thankfully didn't. After the lunch of baby foods, Sandy offered Sarah a bottle of apple juice to wash it down with. Sarah had never been so glad to have a bottle in her life. She drank to her heart's content. Sandy meanwhile made herself a quick lunch and then cleaned up the kitchen. Sandy sat at the table and looked at her daughter. What were they gonna do this afternoon? It was while looking at her that Sandy had an idea. Care to sunbath this afternoon? Sandy asked her daughter. Sure, her daughter said without thinking it through. Then let's get you ready to go outside, Sandy said matter-of-factly. Sandy helped her daughter out of her high chair and both of them walked up to her room. Once there, Sandy had Sarah lay down on her bed and proceeded to change her diaper. This time, however, Sandy changed her into a cloth diaper and plastic pants. Once done, she stood her up and grabbed her by hand to lead her to the outside. What about pants, Mom? Sarah asked, noticing her clothing. Babies do not need pants, so neither do you. Besides, we are going to the backyard, no one will see anything, Sandy informed her. Sarah shrugged and followed her mother's lead. Soon they were outside in the hot sun and laying down on towels to sunbath. Sarah closed her eyes and let the new feelings she had wash over her. Here she was outside in nothing but a diaper and a shirt. This was a strange feeling. She felt very weird. True babies don't care what they wear and neither should she, but something bothered her about it. She also felt the difference between the cloth diaper and her disposable ones. These felt different and the plastic pants made her feel a little hot. But this was what she wanted. She wanted to be a baby and was learning what that meant today. Sandy looked at her daughter and smiled. Sarah was in for a treat, that was for sure. Reaching over to her side, Sandy grabbed a bottle of juice and handed it to Sarah, who took it without asking. It was a sight to see for sure. Soon Sarah felt very tired and fell into a deep sleep. Sandy just lay next to her daughter, taking in the sun. This had to be the best part of the day. Chapter 8. Sarah laid on the blanket drinking in the sun's rays. In her mind was only one thought. This is the life. Nothing to do but lay here and relax. Sarah felt her mother want to put something in her mouth. Sarah just parted her lips and felt the pacifier enter her mouth. She began to suck to her heart's content. The day just passed away within this blissful feeling. The only thing that bothered her was the plastic pants. They seemed to keep a lot of heat, making Sarah feel very hot. Sandy looked at her daughter and smiled. She looked so peaceful. Sandy did not want this moment to end either. Mother and daughter moments like this were few and far between. Sandy let out a sigh of contentment. She looked over at her sleeping daughter and remembered times gone by. A little while later, Sarah woke up needing to pee. Without a moment's thought, she relaxed and emptied her bladder. The feeling of a wet cloth diaper made Sarah feel very uncomfortable. She tried shifting her weight, but nothing could ease her comfort. Sandy noticed her daughter's shifting. Is the baby uncomfortable? She asked, guessing the answer. Sarah just shook her head yes. Well then, let's get you changed, Sandy said as she grabbed a diaper and a bottle from behind her. Sarah took the bottle and began to drink nervously. She could not believe her mother was about to change her outside. At least it was into a disposable. Soon the bottle was empty and her diaper was changed. The two ladies went back to sunbathing. The rest of the week was pretty much the same. Sarah stayed in diapers the whole time and loved every minute of it. Thursday night, Sarah got a bath. It had been years since her mother had bathed her and it was wonderful. The only thing that ruined the evening was her mother reminding her of the appointment to see Violet in the morning. Sarah did not see the reason that she needed to talk to a shrink. She was perfectly healthy and not crazy. Sarah laid in her bed sucking on her pacifier and thought about talking to the shrink the next day. It seemed so unnecessary. She was fine. Sure, she liked wearing diapers and being treated like a baby, but that did not make her crazy, did it? It was then that a strange thought crossed her mind. What if she was crazy? After all, none of her classmates in school were like this. Maybe there was something wrong with enjoying being a baby. What was she doing that was all that normal anyway? Sarah tried to convince herself that she was normal and that this was just part of who she was. Still, the thoughts keep her thinking. Very soon her mother walked in to give her a nighttime bottle. Sarah took the bottle and began to suck the grape juice it contained. Even as she fell into a deep sleep, her mind wondered. Am I normal?